what's your main motivation for running for school board for LCSD1?
Okay, so my main motivation for running for LCSD1 South Triad is that I am an involved mom and have been since 2006 when my daughter entered for kindergarten. And it was just, my intention to be able to go ahead and help my children through school, to navigate them and to help them through that. And as they progressed through the school district, and my kids were getting ready, to go to school based on where we lived at the time. And at the time, South Triad had not been formed yet. And so we just, we had our house and all of that. And so as I continued to help them, and my daughter was getting ready to go into 7th grade, and at that time it had been zoned. When she was in 3rd grade, I also sat in on the town meetings and the areas when they were trying to determine, the boundaries and the South Triad and all of that stuff. So I was even involved in that prior to it being actually the boundaries and everything. So, but as she was going into Johnson, she was very active in sports. All my kids are active in sports. And when people would ask her where she's going to junior high, and she would tell them, and an adult's face goes, oh, oh, that's good. I just really started being kind of offended by that. Like, well, that's not how you treat a 12-year-old, or a 13-year-old. So as she progressed through the South Triad and had wonderful experiences there, had small class sizes, all of those wonderful things, she was very, again, part of a sting team, a very successful sting team. And she was not the only one that was supposed to be boundaried for South Triad, but she is the only one that ended up playing and going to the school there. And it was very tough athletically, just dealing with parents, dealing with officials, dealing with administration. I just felt there is no advocacy here for this school. There's no advocacy for these kids who put in just as much work, put in just as much time and effort, that train just the same. And then they get on the competitive field, whatever it may be, whether it's academically or whatever, and they're already at a disadvantage. And that just really, really bothered me. And so while she was going through high school, I did everything that I could to build as much pride within the community that I knew at the time. And that was the soccer community through South High. That was the indoor track community through South High. And then also through, Johnson, I was very active with our teachers and the principals and sat on the parent advisory and the elementary PTO and, all those things that we could do and being lots of active. So what really sparked me is that I was just visiting, is that I started a change.org petition for the school board to be able to have, a representative for each triad and then 4 at large. I had about over 500 signatures at the time, and then it just kind of dissipated. I'm not sure what happened, whatever. It kind of hit a roadblock maybe. But then a little bit later, I was contacted by Tim Bolin stating that it had been picked up, that he was, we were about ready to go to subcommittees. Would I want to join? Absolutely, I want to join. And so I sat through subcommittees on trying to get, the board to approve this, went through the survey process and all of that stuff. And so, so to me, South High is underrepresented, always has been, and I really feel like that they need a good voice, a strong good voice. And I know that the question has been posed to me about if you're going to represent South, how do you represent a whole? And you need pieces of the pie to make a whole. And I feel like right now we have the opportunity to have the full pieces of the pie. Obviously, I'm going to work for the whole school district, but with a South-colored glasses, I guess, if you want to say, just because that's really the most area that needs to be brought up to the same respect and unity level that has been shown across the district. So I actually, once I heard about it and knew that it had passed, and then did graduation with my kids, summer, getting her off to school again, I pulled the ballot on the 25th of August and to see who was running, and I didn't know anybody that was running. And I reached out to people who I knew had run before, and they had other reasons, but one of them said, "I'll help you run." And I thought, no, not me. But then I thought, why not me? Because I was so, from the beginning, and I'm very passionate about it. And so I met with him on Saturday. I had basically 48 hours to determine if I was going to run, and here I am. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's great.
I mean, it's kind of nice that I don't have to be timed, like, stop, whatever. Okay.
Great.
So yeah, yep.
If you are elected, how would you make sure you are considering the needs of all constituents?
Okay, good. So I've had that question posed to me, how are you going to be a voice for progress and a voice for the whole district? And my answer still is a voice for the South Triad is a voice for the whole district, and that's the reason for having these positions. It really didn't cross my mind as I was kind of, just a passionate mom putting these things together, that this position would be used for a national agenda to be pushed through our school board or for political stances or anything like that, and that just bewilders me. This needs to be grassroots, Cheyenne, real people represented, and I don't think that you can actually really do that if you don't have a section of every of the city represented. So I am for the school district, and I want the school, that's the main reason too, I want the school district to be a whole. I field questions all the time in my job. My child has to be part of the central district or the east district. And I ask why. I don't ask them why, but I ask myself why. Why are these new people moving in already having this mentality that they have to be involved in these other districts? But I do correct them, stating that we are one district and that these are different areas of town. Okay, they say. But so for me, that is the most important, is the understanding that we are one district, not three triads. And so triads actually kind of bothers me a little bit, but I don't know a better way to, for them to have dealt with it that way. And so that's why I feel like it was common sense to me to have representation on the board, to be able to work with those people as everyone as a whole. And again, the 3 seats, that's why it's only 1 seat per triad, is that the 4 at-larges can be from anywhere. But you also do have that one voice for each triad. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
What do you think the relationship between the board and parents should look like?
I think the relationship between the board and the parents should be united. They should be united in one cause, and right now that is not where we're at, and that is very disappointing to me. The divisiveness that has been brought to our society through the pandemic and through all the other hot topic issues, during the time that the masking and no masking and all of those things going on with the school board, that was totally diverted the school board. There was no effort there to think about our kids. They couldn't, because they were so blasted with, parental concerns and things like that. And I understand that as a parent, yes, I do, and you want your voice to be heard. But I feel like that they should be working together, not against each other. And that is, again, the unity, unity, respect, and equity treatment, regardless of your socioeconomic status, regardless of where you live in town, regardless of what school you attend. That is really important to me, to bring that together as a whole and to be unified with the parents. We have the same goal. I mean, they are working for us as parents, and I think that parents are forgetting that we're not working. They're not working against us as parents. They're working for us, and we should use that to our advantage. Mhm.
Shelly, what should the rules of engagement be at school board meetings?
The rules of engagement, meaning public comment. Yeah. To be honest, I feel that the rules of engagement the policy is set, right? I mean, there's ways for you to engage. You can contact your representative. And I think now that we have the different seats, people will feel more like they can speak. I think, speaking for myself, that when I have put complaints forth, towards for admin or at the state or at the school board level, it doesn't feel like it's been heard. And so now I feel like people might feel a little bit more engaged to be able to contact their representative, knowing that those issues for their area can be represented in a more clear light. But as far as comments, I think they have to have some sort of structure. You can't just open public comment because A, the meetings will run forever, B, you don't know what you're going to be hit with as questions. And I think that for having the opportunity to place your questions forth is a good opportunity to do that, to take the effort to do that. I know it does take effort, and so some people don't really have the time or whatever to be able to attend meetings. So I understand that concern as well. But again, I think that having your triad representative could maybe feel a little bit closer to home regarding that.
As far as the rules that exist now, the 3 minutes per person and registering in advance, are you okay with those rules?
3 minutes timed stuff's tough. I mean, maybe 5 minutes might even be better, and then maybe some time for some, Q&A back with them for maybe a total of 10 minutes. But I do agree with registering prior. Yes, I do agree with that. I do feel like it brings structure, and that it's an avenue for parents who seek to have that.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think K-12 schools in Wyoming are adequately funded? If not, how would you recommend the legislature address the issues?
Yeah. No, I don't feel that they're adequately funded. How can they be adequately funded when we have, 17 of the top 22 schools on the FCI, or whatever there is, but the majority, they are here in Laramie County. So, I don't feel that they're adequately funded. I do feel the block grant system was put into place because of previous lawsuits and things like that to take care of that. Unfortunately, that system doesn't cover all of the expenses needed, such as teacher salaries and the critical maintenance that's needed on all of our schools. So, how would I work to alleviate that? I mean, I'm not sure, and this is just speaking, but I'm not sure how much Laramie County 1 has participated at the state level of petitioning the state and, having a board member or board members go up there. And like I said, I'm not aware how much that is, and if it's more than I know, then I would like to be corrected. But that's definitely somewhere where we could petition the state more, have more people. I just recently watched or sat in on the the legislature building meeting, and there were parents there, no, I didn't see anyone else, but Laramie County School 1 parents, and so to be able to be more involved at the state level, I think would definitely help our school district. We're Wyoming, we're the largest school district, and for us to be able to set an example in that way, to work with the state would help the whole state, not just our school district. But definitely working to get them to see the imperative need of our school district is number one, really. I think that's the big thing on everyone's mind right now, yeah.
Related to that, Shelly, is obviously the Wyoming Education Association has sued the state over inadequate funding. Do you think LCSD 1 should join that lawsuit?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they should because, again, it's setting an example for the state. It's also the largest school district, again, like I said, and if they're able to join the fight, then that we can also help the little man, the littler schools type thing. So as far as, what was the second part of the question? What to do about funding?
Yes. If not, how would you recommend the legislature address the issues? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so if they're not going to fund anymore, is that kind of where you're leading? Yeah, okay. The elementary sports thing, I think, is a big thing, and it's been cut because of this reason. And I understand the need for finding places to cut, but unfortunately, again, this is why a triad person needs to be involved, is that this is the hugest disadvantage to the South Triad. We are in a pay-to-play system. Parents are paying for their kids to, be an all-star and all that stuff, and that starts in, first, second, third grade, whenever they can, and we just don't have the community in the South Triad that's going to have those. So the opportunity to expose kids to sports at the elementary level is imperative for us. So I'm not in approving of having the sports cut, but I understand, I guess, why they did it, because it's the unobvious way. I would like to look at other options regarding that, about funding, whether that's providing more teacher perks or things like that we might be able to skirt around funding. The other thing that I would like to look at as well, and I had a lengthy conversation the other day with the head of transportation. He actually just moved, but we had a lengthy conversation about busing and what that looks like, and how that looks based on triad boundaries, based on if we were to go like school of choice, something like that. Just trying to, because in my mind I have an idea of how things should work, and I think that that's where we get a lot of miscommunications, because people want them to work the way they think it should, and so I'm really trying to find good ways where we can save either some money, or whether we can save mileage, or whether we can put more responsibilities in some ways on parents if they want their children to be at different schools, where the school district is working for the parents and giving them those things, but not at the expense as well of cutting programs. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
As a board member, what would your budget priorities be for the district?
That's kind of what, yeah.
Yep.
My budget priorities are obviously for the stakeholders, which are families and kids. That money should be going to them, and they should be supporting the families and the kids' education, to be honest. Anything that's been extra, I know that the South Triad has offered dinner for the last several years, which is fantastic, obviously helps parents. That's at no cost to the school board, because it's a federal grant that they've been given. And so I feel like in some ways maybe the school board has viewed, because the lump sum of Title I schools is located in the South Triad, that we have enough funding, that we have enough, and that they need to disperse that to the other two more because we have the Title I. That's a misnomer. I mean, and definitely I think that the wealth, I guess, of Title I, if that's how you want to look at it, should be spread across the city. I think by doing that, if you redistricted or redrew the boundaries in a north-south direction versus the east-west, you would encompass a more socioeconomic diverse community and schools. And I think that could be the beginning of a more healthy school system, not only economically, but also for the kids, of the way that they treat each other, the diverseness that we have in our area, and the mentality that needs to go away about the South Triad. So of course, keeping that in the classroom is huge. Finding ways to support our educators to keep people happy in their jobs. We used to be a really, top 5 teacher salary. Now we're right smack in the middle, so we've dropped, and that's part of the state's issue, I think, which is why that's another reason it's important to work so closely with the state to get that funding so that we can bring us up. And that's something we need to be proud of. We don't need to be less than 1 million people in the state and ranked in the middle. I mean, that's ridiculous. You know, we should be a really top, high functioning and producing state. So, yeah, does that answer your question? Okay.
Our questions lead one right into the other. So
Yeah,
the
good.
next one is, how do you feel about increasing teacher compensation? If you agree that teachers do need higher wages at this point, how would you find the funds for that? And you mentioned a little bit where Wyoming ranks among other states, but how does that factor in?
I don't know where to find the funds, to be honest, because I feel like it's the state's job to be able to do that. So finding the funds within our district should not be our concern, really. And I feel that the state should be doing their due diligence to fund that for us so that we can recruit and keep in place the highest educated, best performing people. One of the things that boggled my mind several years ago, when we were ranked more in the top, was we had people dying to come, very competitive to come and teach in Wyoming, and yet we had tenured teachers or whatever that were just sort of warm body status. I hit my teaching, and so, I'm either like the kids, don't like the kids, I'm just waiting my time out, that type of thing. And that's, I digress, but that kind of bothered me. But now that we're in a dire situation, it is kind of, how do we even retain somebody that wants to come work? And so it's the opposite that we're dealing with, and that's really bothersome to me. I mean, when you can go to Target or Qdoba or somewhere and get paid more than to work with children in our future, that is got to change. So again, I think I touched on we need to incentivize teachers. I don't know what that looks like. Does that look like creating forums for them? Does that look like creating, more incentivizes through their local PTOs, working a little bit more closely with those schools that do raise money for their schools to support their teachers a little bit more? I don't know what that answer is, but it's definitely something that needs to be considered in how we can save funds, but also maximize their joy in their job. We are seeing fantastic teachers quit left and right due to the mayhem that's, the chaos, I guess, that's going on. So what was the other part?
You answered it as how to find funds. So
Oh, okay.
really the legislature
Yeah.
is what I heard you say.
Well, legislature, yeah, incentivizing. Funds aren't always, pay isn't always the one denominator that's, I'm happy in my job. I mean, it helps, yes, but I think I've talked to BISs. I have a good friend that's a BIS, and she said, we need more bodies, And I feel like a lot of the behavior issues could also hopefully be disseminated if we were to redraw those boundaries, in the fact that you have more diverse kids, higher achieving ones will also bring up the lower achieving ones. There's a middle grade there as well. If the board is to follow their policies and with behavior issues and things like that, and the teachers feel supported, I think that's probably right now more concern to the teachers and the educators and the people with the feet on the ground than it is about their pay for right now. I mean, I'm not going to say they don't care about pay. Don't quote, take that out of context for me, but you know what I'm saying is that sometimes it's not always just about pay. It's also about the joy in their job and finding, feeling supported, and I don't think that's there right now.
Okay. How much freedom should teachers have with regards to teaching the district curriculum?
It's a tongue twister, that's okay. Okay, so I feel that teachers should have the freedom to choose how to teach. That's why you go into teaching. I mean, I'm not in teaching, but I have kids, and I, taught them, and I taught them the way that I felt like I wanted to teach them. Of course, there has to be benchmarks and boundaries within that. So I'm not going to offer a full-on solution as to what that looks like, but I think it's a conversation that can be had as to how the district, monitors that, I guess. But I feel the teachers, that's another part of incentivizing teachers. Hey, teach how you want to teach. I had a 3rd grade teacher at Sunrise, and I was in the classroom, and she was teaching them phonics and reading through drumsticks, and the kids were beating on drumsticks. Like, how fun is that? That's super fun for those kids, and they're learning things, different cadences. Not everyone learns the same. Teaching to the test really is the model that we've become, and that I don't appreciate that at all, because I'm not a good test taker. I can talk to you, I can write papers, I can do projects, but you sit me down in front of a test and I freeze. And so there's a lot of kids, I think that's affecting their mental health as well. The scores and everything that's been pushed onto them about how the scores need to be and what it needs to look like, and all of that stuff is just too much. I mean, really, what are we racing to? What are we trying to get these kids through to? Why can't we let them be kids and learn it the way that they need to learn? And the people that know that are the teachers in our classrooms who deal with them every single day. Yep.
How do you feel about the teaching of racial discrimination as part of U.S. history?
Well, it's part of U.S. history. So I think it's pretty obvious that it needs to be taught. Just because you don't teach it doesn't mean it didn't happen. And if you don't teach it and you don't discuss it and you don't bring it to the forefront, how are we not to repeat it? History is history. And it doesn't matter, we're talking about crusades, it's a brutal, world history is brutal. Yes, we have a black eye as the United States in some of our issues of, regarding slavery and racial discrimination. Are we still dealing with that? Absolutely, absolutely. And by teaching those things of how it was, we can learn and be better. So any part of history, any part of, books that say, that white people were upset because the little, African American girl went to school, that's not racial discrimination. I mean, I think we're in a place where we can't even call people, what they are or what it was, I guess. And that's bothersome because, the white people were angry because, she went to school, but that was that time and day. And it's, how do we learn from that and grow? If that had never happened, we wouldn't be where we are today. And so, if we don't teach it and learn from it, we're doomed to repeat it. Mm-hmm.
Do you support an opt-in or opt-out policy for kids checking out books from school libraries, and why?
I support the board opt-out. Opt-out, again, I was an involved mom through elementary, all through school, still am. I mean, my 16-year-old's not super happy that, I'm still involved. He thinks he can do it all, now that he can drive and he's the only one at home, right? But it's important to me. It's important to me that I raise my children the way that I want them to be raised. It's important to me that I present them the information that I want them to be presented with. Is that the same that you want? No. Is that the same that you want? I don't know. And who is the district to determine what they're going to present to all the public? And so I do support the opt-out, and I'm even happy. So what I was going to say is that that's the situation I used when my kids were in elementary school myself. I'm the one self-motivated that went to the school librarian and made friends with her. I made friends with my kids' teachers. I made friends with the kids' teachers and, the principals and all that, just so that I was aware of what was going on in the school. And I do understand that not everyone has that luxury. And so that's why this is in place, is because not everyone has had the luxury that I had to be so involved in my kids' education and with their teachers. But also the district took it a step further by giving you the opt-in right? The buzzword opt-in. You can opt in through the free Destiny program that they've offered through the school, and at that web-based site that allows you to curate reading lists for your children by topic and by book. So if you don't have the time to go into the schools and foster a relationship with those librarians or your kids as teachers, this is where you can take, your lunch hour or whatever and fill out this list. It helps the librarians and teachers know what your goals are for your children, and it's easy to do, and it's free, and the district has provided that for us and for everyone who takes advantage of it. I do feel that the opt-out sheet is a little bit buried inside of the board policies. It does need to be brought to the forefront and easier access. My one suggestion for that would be we fill out all kinds of information on web-based, on Infinite Campus when we register our kids. I'm answering questions as to if I'll allow Tylenol and if they can have their picture taken and all that gamut of stuff. Why do we not offer the opt-out policy right then and there as well? Why are we not offering that as you can't go any further unless you choose opt-in or opt-out? Whether you go to the web-based thing is up to the parent then after that, but at least it's in front of their face and they get to make that choice right then and there.
What should the process be for changing policies in school districts? Do you agree or disagree with the current process? Why?
For changing policy? Oh, this is a tough one too, because I feel like the district has in place, the 45-day review and public comment and all of that stuff. And I think that that's a good policy to have in place. I also am aware that they are looking at getting rid of the policy committee. And I don't know how to feel about that really right now. On its face, I feel a little bit concerned regarding that they're going to, the question is why? Why do they want to get rid of it? That's the big reason. Why are they even looking at it? Why is this even a choice that they would look at removing sort of that, keeping people in check, the check and boundaries. So that to me is a question regarding that. So as far as policy, I feel like that, again, if you look at policy on its face and what is put forth by the district, there's really not a lot that I question because I feel like I understand that enough. The way that it's enacted may be different. And so that's where I also have some issues too, is basically if I'm kind of a rule follower, and so if a policy's there, that should be the governance for how you deal with situations, right? So the policy committee thing is bothersome to me. And I don't know if that's to answer to the end of your question, but that has just been a topic for me lately, as the question as to why you would want to get rid of those checks and balances there for that. So if there's something I'm missing in that, I would love someone to tell me and to educate me regarding that. So yeah.
Give you an opportunity to share any other issues or concerns, anything else you wanted us to know about.
Okay. So really, I think the one thing that I want people to know, and I want you to know as well, especially because you're going to disseminate information to the community, it's important for me to let people know that yes, I am championing the South Side. That's why these were created, right? These parts. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to get on the board and push only South issues, and I think that that's a misnomer that people have. What the point is for us to get on the board and to be treated the same. And I can't express to you enough that those people whose kids live in the triad, attend the triad, parents who are involved in the triad, and you know. And if you don't, it's glaringly obvious. And the condescending ways that I've been spoken to, the way that my kids have, the fact that officials and administration and representatives across the community have told my children and their coaches and me how horrible my school is, an official told my daughter, I hate your school, I hate your kids, let's go out and play soccer. And the discrimination based on where that school is, I have never in my life, and I have lived in several states across the US, never in my life come across where you build a $1 million, multi-million-dollar school, beautiful, fully updated, technologically advanced, and had a community and a state stomp on it. And it has been absolutely the most concerning thing. And it almost like engulfs me sometimes, the frustration that I have regarding that. And so the imperative need, we are more than 15 years into this school. If the district prior said that we're one district and treated us all as one district, why are they letting this school languish? Why are they letting this community languish? Why are they letting their programs languish? If it was for the whole in the beginning, then something would have been done before now. So that's exactly why I am running for this position. Yes, I'm not going to apologize that it is a South-based position, and that's exactly what I should be, because that's what the people need and that's what they want. So, anything else you want to know about me?
I think that's great. I don't have any other follow-up questions.
I
Do you
don't.
guys? Not yet.
Okay.
Shelly, thank you so much
Yeah,
for taking the time.
thank
I really
you.
appreciate you being
Yeah,
here.
no, I appreciate the invitation, and it was good to meet you all.